You work, you save. You say no to dinners out, skip new shoes, ignore the vacation ads in your inbox because you've got a goal. You want your family to feel secure. And when they ask for help, you give it. Because that's what good daughters do, right? We convince ourselves that our sacrifices are temporary, that someday it'll all circle back, that the people we help will remember what we gave up for them. But what happens when the people you trust the most decide you're just convenient? Because that's what happened to me. My parents had been renting for years after their second bankruptcy. They wanted stability. They'd finally found the perfect little home near the edge of town. 2 bedrooms, a garden, space for grandkids one day. The catch? They couldn't get a mortgage on their own. They called me late one night, voices quiet and hopeful. "We just need a little help. You'd be co-owner. You'd inherit it anyway." I didn't hesitate. I wired my entire emergency fund. 60, 80, 500. Down payment, renovations, closing costs. I even helped repaint the walls and scrub mold out of the crawl space myself. Because this wasn't just their home, it was ours. A shared future, a promise. Or so I thought. 8 months later, I stopped by to drop off a box of light fixtures I'd found on sale. Mom wasn't home. Dad was out running errands. But in the stack of mail on the kitchen counter, I saw something strange. A property tax bill. Addressed to my stepbrother, Kyle. Not me, not our parents. Kyle, the one who hadn't contributed $1, the one who was between jobs for the 4th year in a row. I blinked, checked again. There it was. Property owner of record, Kyle D., last name. When I confronted them, my father shrugged like it was no big deal. "You're fine. You don't need a house." Kyle needed the help. Mom wouldn't even look me in the eye. They expected me to smile through it, to let it go, because it's all in the family. But what they didn't know was that I'd kept a signed document, one they'd forgotten, one that gave me the power to stop this betrayal in its tracks. They thought they could hand away what I paid for without consequence. They forgot who really owned the receipts. I wasn't born into money. In fact, money was the one topic in our house that always came with tension. Raised voices, tight mouths, silent dinners. So I learned young how to be low maintenance. The kid who didn't ask for new things, who kept the same shoes for 3 years, who quietly accepted that hand-me-downs were love in disguise. My parents were hard-working people when they worked. But between layoffs, side gigs, and 2 bankruptcies, one before I turned 12 and one during college, it became clear that stability wasn't something we inherited. It was something we had to build. So I did. No loans, no help. Just me, a second-hand car, and a spreadsheet that tracked every penny. By 37, I wasn't rich, but I was secure. I had a 6-month emergency fund, a Roth IRA, a modest down payment tucked away in savings. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. And my parents? They were still floating. After the second bankruptcy, they moved into a small rental. Nothing terrible, just old, leaky, no sense of home. Then came the call. They'd found a house, a foreclosure, but in good shape. 2 bedrooms, a little garden, close to the pharmacy and a community pool, something they could grow old in. They needed help. They couldn't qualify for a mortgage after their credit history. But if I co-signed and helped with the $68,500 down payment, they could make the dream happen. They promised, "It'll be in your name too. This will be your inheritance one day. We're just asking for a little faith." And I believed them because I wanted to. I showed up at every stage, met with the realtor, cut the check for the down payment, even paid the contractor to fix the roof. I signed the paperwork after writing my own simple co-investment agreement for clarity. Nothing fancy, just a notarized add-on saying, "Any transfer of title or refinancing must be disclosed and agreed upon in writing by both parties." They both signed it. Right there at the kitchen table. I still remember Mom saying, "You're so organized. You must have learned that from us." I smiled, but I knew better. I didn't learn it from them. I learned it because of them. My stepbrother Kyle? He floated in and out of the picture. 5 years younger than me. Charming in that slippery kind of way. Good at making you laugh. Bad at following through. He tried college, dropped out. Tried sales, got fired. Tried crypto, lost everything. But somehow he always landed on his feet. usually in someone else's guest room. He wasn't involved in the house purchase at all. Didn't show up to viewings, didn't contribute a dime, barely sent a congrats text when the deal closed. And yet, there was always something about the way Dad talked about him. Like Kyle was the one with potential, the one who just needed a break, the one they were still trying to save. Meanwhile, I was already saved, so I became the helper, the one who could afford to give, the one who didn't need anything in return. At first, the house seemed like a good decision. My parents were happier. Mom planted tomatoes. Dad started fixing things himself again. I felt proud. Until the day I found the tax bill. I remember everything about that moment. The smell of lemon-scented floor cleaner, the sound of the mail flap clicking shut, the way my stomach dropped when I saw Kyle's name on a government envelope. I stood there staring at it, hoping it was a mistake, an error, a typo. But it wasn't. When I confronted them, they didn't even flinch. Dad said, "You're doing fine. Kyle needed the boost." Mom muttered something about fairness and helping him feel secure, as if they hadn't already asked for everything I had, as if that house wasn't paid for with my sacrifices, as if being responsible meant I didn't deserve protection. And Kyle? He walked in halfway through the conversation holding a protein shake and grinning like this was all some hilarious accident. What? It's just paper, right? It's all in the family. I didn't speak. Not to him, not that day, because something deeper snapped in me. Not just hurt, not just betrayal, but clarity. They thought they picked the smarter child, the one they could use without pushback. But I'd spent my life preparing for moments just like this. Moments where calm beats chaos. And that little contract they signed back when they were smiling and desperate, that was my key. I didn't raise my voice, didn't storm out. I quietly called my lawyer, sent over the document, and asked one question. Is this enforceable? She read it twice and said, "Yes, you have grounds. And if you're ready, we can freeze the entire title by Monday." I always thought betrayal would come loud. A screaming match, a slammed door, a red-faced confession. But mine came in the form of silence. Avoided eye contact, shrugged shoulders. And a tax bill with someone else's name on my investment. After that afternoon, I didn't go back to the house. Didn't take their calls for a few days. Instead, I gathered everything. Every email, every receipt, every message, every screenshot. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do, but I knew I needed to see it. In writing, to prove to myself that I hadn't imagined it. Because when your own parents betray you, there's a strange shame that sets in. Like you must have missed a sign. Like you should have been smarter. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is let people show you who they really are, and then believe them. I pulled out the co-investment agreement I had them sign. It was short, barely a page. But on the second paragraph, in plain black ink, was this sentence: "No transfer, refinancing, or reassignment of title shall be conducted without the written consent of both co-investors." Both of them signed. In front of a notary. Smiling. I scanned it. Sent it to my attorney, Julie. She called within the hour. "This holds up. You weren't just a co-signer. You were an investor with enforceable restrictions. If they transferred title to Kyle without notifying you, that's breach of agreement." That phrase, breach of agreement, hit like a light switch. This wasn't just a family dispute. It was a legal one. So I gave her the go-ahead. And by the following Monday, we filed a notice of restriction with the county. It blocked any future refinancing or property sale without my approval. More importantly, it triggered a title review. And that's when everything unraveled. Turns out my parents didn't just add Kyle to the deed. They removed me. Completely. Filed a new deed transfer months ago. Signed by them, recorded quietly. They had stripped me of any ownership. I was stunned. Even Julie paused. They actually erased you from the document. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a deliberate move. That week, my dad left me 2 voicemails. The first was calm, almost scolding. "Honey, this is all a misunderstanding. We didn't think you'd mind." The second? "You're making a mess. This is family. You want to drag us into court? For what? Some paperwork?" That's when I knew they still didn't get it. This wasn't about paperwork. It was about respect. It was about not treating your daughter like a walking bank account. Kyle finally reached out too, via text, of course. "I thought we were good. It's not even like you were living here. "You're not losing anything, chill. Can we not blow this up?" I didn't respond, because the time for talking had passed. They had made decisions without me. Now I was making mine, with documents. Julie and I filed a petition for equitable relief and a motion to reestablish interest, which basically meant, you made a deal, you broke it. Now I want my share back or compensation equivalent to it. The hearing was set for 6 weeks later. During that time, the family did what families do in crisis. They spun stories, tried to call me emotional, said I was punishing them for a technicality. I stayed quiet, didn't post, didn't argue. I just showed up with my lawyer, my receipts, and a single copy of that agreement. In court, Julie laid it out simply. Proof of the $6,500 transfer from my account. Proof I had never been reimbursed. The signed and notarized co-investment agreement. The altered deed excluding me. Kyle's lease application, found online, trying to rent out the back room without informing any co-owner. The judge asked if Kyle had made any financial contribution to the purchase. He hadn't. Not a cent. The judge nodded and said, "It appears the defendants not only breached a valid contract, but attempted to circumvent ownership rights altogether." I didn't look at my father during the hearing, not because I was angry, but because I didn't want to see that familiar look he always gave me when he thought I was overreacting. This time, it wasn't overreaction. It was justice. The judge ordered 3 things: immediate restoration of my ownership stake, evaluation of the home for a forced buyout, full repayment of my original contribution plus interest and legal fees if buyout was not feasible. They had 30 days to comply. Kyle texted again later that night. "Can we talk?" No, we couldn't, because what they'd taken wasn't just money. It was trust, and no judge can order that to be returned. But what I could take back was the house, or the value of it, plus the interest, plus the cost of betrayal. By the end of the month, I had a certified check in my mailbox. Not an apology, not an explanation, just a check. It wasn't closure, but it was a start. The check sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 3 days. I didn't touch it, didn't deposit it, didn't even move it, because something inside me said, this isn't the end. Not yet. On the surface, the legal win felt complete. My name restored, my contribution reimbursed. Kyle and my parents thoroughly, legally embarrassed. But I wasn't looking for humiliation. I was looking for truth. And something still didn't add up. During the court filings, Julie's paralegal had flagged something strange. Kyle had used the house, the very one I'd invested in, as collateral in a short-term rental agreement with a private management firm. While my ownership was in legal limbo, he'd tried to profit off the property, without informing me, without legal right. And what's worse, he'd already collected 3 months of income from it, under his name. Julie brought it up in our follow-up meeting. Technically, this qualifies as unauthorized rental income on a disputed asset. If you want to pursue it, we can. I sat there, quiet, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. How much are we talking? She slid the spreadsheet across the table. Over $9,000, just from Airbnb-style short-term rentals during the time my name was wiped off the deed. You have 2 options, she said. We can walk away with the buyout, or we can go one step further and demand rental compensation under shared asset fraud. I stared at the check still folded in my purse, the one that was supposed to be my resolution, and I realized it wasn't enough. Not because I wanted more money, but because they had made so many decisions without me, with full confidence that I'd never fight back. So I looked at Julie and said, let's finish it. She filed a second claim, intentional omission of ownership in rental profiteering. Kyle was served a notice within 5 business days. The silence from my parents was deafening. No calls, no emails, just distance. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't doing this to teach them a lesson. I was doing this because I wanted the story written correctly. Kyle showed up to mediation in a hoodie and ball cap like we were settling a parking ticket. You're really doing this? We're family. I stayed calm. You were family when I paid for that roof. You were family when I slept on my couch for 6 months so you'd have a guest room. And you were still family when you rented out the house behind my back. His lawyer whispered something. We'd like to offer a settlement, quiet, no additional press. I nodded. Then double the rental profit, plus a written acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of what? that I was the only financial contributor to the purchase, that I was removed from the deed illegally, and that the short-term profits were collected without my consent. There was a pause, a long one. Then his lawyer said, "We'll draft it by Friday." That wasn't petty. It was necessary. Because I didn't want revenge. I wanted the record to reflect reality. By the following week, I had a second certified check and a one-page letter, not from Kyle, from his attorney. We acknowledged that my name was the sole contributor to the down payment and initial improvements. Any oversight in deed adjustments was made without her consent or knowledge. Rental income was collected during a disputed period and is being reimbursed in full. That letter now lives in a fireproof box with my original co-investment contract. Because now I had more than just my money. I had documentation. I had closure. I had clarity. A few weeks later, I did something I never thought I'd do. I used part of the settlement to place a down payment on my own property. A small fixer-upper. Nothing luxurious, but mine. Only mine. No co-signers. No shared names. No blurred lines between love and leverage. I remember the first morning I woke up in that house. Sunlight streaming through the windows I picked. Coffee in the mug I bought with my own name etched in gold. For the first time in years, I felt still. Not angry, not bitter, just finished. My parents eventually sent a card. "Hope you're well. Let's talk sometime." I placed it on a shelf and never opened it. Not because I was punishing them, but because I no longer needed their version of peace. I'd built my own. And Kyle? He moved 2 towns over, started a business flipping houses. I heard it failed 6 months later. But I didn't cheer, didn't gloat. Because by then, I'd realized something bigger. They never really took anything from me. They just showed me exactly where not to plant my future. I thought that would be the end of it. 2 checks, a court ruling, a quiet move into my new home, justice by the book. But sometimes life isn't done talking. Sometimes it whispers something unexpected, just loud enough for you to listen. It started with an email, buried in my spam folder, subject line, unclaimed disbursement, county property settlement, 2018-2023. I clicked it out of habit, almost deleted it. But when I read the details, my heart skipped. It was from the county assessor's office. Apparently, when the house was purchased, there was an overpayment on an escrow refund during refinancing, more than $4,800. The check had never been cashed. I called the number listed, expecting it to be some mistake, but the woman on the other end confirmed everything. "Yes, the system shows the refund check was issued in your name. Since you were originally on title and the initial escrow was funded from your account, you're entitled to that surplus." And that's when it hit me. The refund had never made it to me, because at that time, my name had already been illegally removed from the title, which meant someone else had intercepted it or ignored it. I asked her to reissue the funds. She said I'd need to prove my claim with documentation. So I did. I sent the bank transfer receipt from my savings, the signed contract, the court ruling, the notarized letter acknowledging my ownership. She called me back 2 days later. "Thank you, Mr. Last Name. You're good to go. You'll receive a certified check by the end of the week." And just like that, $4,112.78 arrived in my mailbox. A quiet postscript to the loudest year of my life. But it wasn't the money that mattered. It was what came with the money. An internal note attached to the disbursement file. Claim validated due to documented breach of co-investment agreement. Original escrow contributor restored as rightful recipient. 1 line. Black ink on a white slip of paper. And yet it felt louder than every voicemail, every text, every dismissal. It was proof, again, that I wasn't crazy. That what happened mattered. And that, even now, pieces of truth were still making their way back to me. I deposited that check with a smile, but I didn't spend a dime of it. Instead, I opened a separate savings account. Called it Reclamation Fund. Because who knows? Maybe one day I'll use it to help someone else. Someone stuck between guilt and logic, trying to protect what's rightfully theirs without losing their sanity in the process. The final twist came not long after. Julie, my lawyer, called me for a casual follow-up. She mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that she'd been contacted by a nonprofit legal group interested in using my case as part of a financial literacy workshop. They're building a training on family-bound asset protection. You're kind of a textbook example. She asked if I'd be willing to speak, to tell my story. At first, I hesitated. I wasn't a speaker. I didn't want to air my trauma on a microphone. But then I thought about how many women, especially daughters, quietly hand over everything. How many of us are taught that being helpful is more important than being safe? So I said yes. The first time I stood in front of that small group of women, some older than me, some barely 30, I told the story the way it happened. No dramatics, no villains, just facts, feelings, and a warning. Get everything in writing, especially when love is involved, especially when no one thinks you will. I ended with this. The people who guilt you into staying quiet, they usually count on your silence being permanent. But you don't owe anyone your silence, especially when they used it to steal from you. The room went quiet. Then someone clapped, and then everyone did. But I didn't cry. I didn't beam. I just breathed. And for the first time in years, I felt heard. That was the real victory, not the money, not the legal win, but the quiet knowing that I'd finally reclaimed something bigger, my voice, my power, and my right to protect what I build. They say family comes first, but I've learned sometimes that only applies until money gets involved, until people decide that you're the safe one, the strong one, the one who won't fight back, until they realize they can cross your boundary and count on you to stay quiet about it. I used to think betrayal looked like shouting, doors slamming, heated arguments, dramatic moments. But in reality, it's often calm, casual, wrapped in phrases like, "It's not a big deal. You're making this personal." You'll understand when you have kids of your own. Betrayal is what happens when someone you love makes a selfish decision and expects you to absorb the consequences quietly. My parents never apologized. Not directly. I got a card. No message inside, just my name. No return address. Just silence. And Kyle, he sent a one-line email 6 months later. "Hope you're doing well." I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because that chapter is closed. These days, I live in my own little fixer-upper, modest, creaky, filled with light. I know every corner of it. I picked every tile, signed every document, painted every wall with my own 2 hands. It's not flashy. It's not a status symbol, but it's mine, completely, proudly, peacefully. And peace is worth more than property. Peace is knowing you don't have to prove anything to anyone, that you don't have to stay at a table where your value is conditional, that walking away doesn't make you cruel, it makes you clear. I didn't just reclaim money. I reclaimed my right to be respected, to not be the family fallback plan, to not be the one who gives and gives while others take. And most importantly, I reclaimed my ability to trust myself because I knew something was wrong. And instead of gaslighting myself, I followed the facts. I followed the paper trail. And I didn't let their discomfort stop my truth. And if you've ever been in that position where you gave everything you had only to be erased, overlooked, or guilted into silence, let me say this to you. You're not dramatic. You're not overreacting. You're not cold or selfish or ungrateful. You're allowed to protect what's yours, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it means letting people be disappointed in you. These days, I teach a financial literacy class at the Women's Center once a month. Not because I'm an expert, but because I know what it feels like to be burned by the people you love and still walk away holding your head up. I help other women set boundaries with family, put names on deeds, draft co-investment clauses, ask the hard questions before the checks are written. I call it compassionate contracts because love and legal clarity aren't opposites. They're a team. I used to think winning meant getting justice in court, but I've come to believe that real victory is this: sleeping through the night, not checking your phone for emotional grenades, knowing your story didn't end in bitterness, but in boundaries. I don't hate my parents. I don't wish failure on my stepbrother. I just no longer give them the parts of me they once felt entitled to. And that's not revenge. That's recovery. If this story felt familiar, if you've ever been the one who was expected to give without question, only to be erased from the reward, drop a or in the comments. Let others know they're not alone in this. And hit subscribe because here we tell the real stories, the ones people are afraid to say out loud, the ones that hurt, but also heal. Your voice deserves a space. Your story deserves to be told. And your boundaries? They're not rude. They're sacred. Next time on the channel, the CEO fired me right after I secured $10 for our startup, forgetting I was the only one who knew where the money came from. Stick around, because justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it walks in with a quiet smile and a signed receipt.